This has been a very interesting experience so far. Unfortunately, about a week in country in the Philippines, my buddy got sick almost right off the bat, and so he was not doing very well. And then he had a nasty fall, and he was toughing it out. He was in a lot of pain and a lot of bruising. So went to the hospital, and sure enough, he broke his collarbone. So we're leaving the country early, which is disappointing. I was planning on doing 3 months here. I will have to come back because I feel like this was not nearly enough time to get to really get a good pulse on everything, especially when it comes to the context of me and the rest of my life. So I will say here that I would avoid all the tourist areas if you want an authentic experience. It's resource extraction, you know, that you're not going to be able to find. Had a very hard time finding authentic Filipino food in all the tourist spots. That's not that the food wasn't good, it's just the food isn't authentic. So it's mostly westernized food, kind of corporatized structures. You know, the locals weren't happy with it because from what I've talked to, they weren't super happy. It's pros and cons, you know, because like from what I've seen, Filipinos don't tend to move around a lot. They'll tend to stay in one area or island, you know, with their families and all that stuff. It's very family oriented. And I could be wrong. That's just been my kind of vibe so far from the people I've talked to. And so what'll happen is you'll have a tourist thing come in, and the locals will start making more money, and they're happy. And then suddenly they're starting to spend more money because they have to. So it's like it's a trap, you know. And we see this happen all over the U.S. To deny that that's not how it happens is clearly you're not paying attention. So anyways, I've talked to a bunch of different women from all over the world because since we have, you know, Jeremy did want to do the tourist thing, so that was my concession, is we go do all the tourist things and then we go, you know, find someplace where I want to settle down for the last, you know, couple months or so. And unfortunately he broke his collarbone, so that's not gonna happen. Sucks. And yeah, I mean, I could just send him back to the States by himself, but it's kind of a military thing. You don't leave your buddy like that behind, so I get that. But it is beautiful here. The people are what make the Philippines. I mean, they really are. They do things differently. One day feels like about 3 days back in the States. You know, life is lived slowly and purposefully here. I was looking forward to finding a connection with a local Filipino woman here and exploring that. At this point, I don't think it would be, I think it's safe to say it wouldn't be fair to explore that since I'm leaving at the end of the month. So, for either her or I. And, because if you want, like anything else, if you want sex, that's easy to find. You know, there's bar girls, there's all kinds of stuff. You can literally just, between like 34 and 60 bucks US, buy a girl for the night, and it's fine, you know. You gotta go through Mama-san, like anything else. And obviously she can refuse, you know. So yeah, it's definitely different over here, but again, I've talked to women from all over the world, London, Australia, India, Germany, France, where's some other ones? Poland, couple other, I want to say Sri Lanka, but that wasn't it. couple other places, and the U.S. dating scene does seem to be uniquely U.S. from what I've talked. There are certain things with Western cultures that are similar with the dating scene between men and women, but there does seem to be a special kind of delusion when it comes to U.S. women, and obviously craziness when it comes to U.S. men, right? So that's kind of become apparent. So what that does do is this trip has given me some hope. I'm like, okay, this is primarily mostly a U.S. thing. This isn't necessarily a Western culture thing or an Eastern culture thing. This is primarily a special U.S. thing. So that gives me some hope. So basically what I have to do is figure out how to detach, you know, without becoming the guy that mocks everything and throws gasoline on the fire. Because with my knowledge and my education, especially with AI tools now and everything else like that, I mean, it can be very dangerous, right? And I see other men doing this, so it doesn't really help anything, you know. All you can do is laugh at the clowns, you know, but at the same time, that doesn't help them. So it's not like they're gonna change. You focus on your relationships, and obviously your relationships are good. So you just have to, I guess, care a little less. And that's hard for someone like me to do. And yes, the Philippines is very temperature stable. It's been about 81 degrees and about 80% humidity. So, but the breezes are cool. Like it's kind of nice. You know, yes, you will sweat perspiration, but I'm also coming off of about 6 days of being sick. So I finally caught something. I knew it was going to happen. I was hoping it was going to be a little bit later, but I definitely caught something. I don't know if it was from a mosquito bite or what, but whew, it was rough. Still recovering, but it'll be fine. So yeah, I guess I definitely want to come back at some point. Unfortunately, I was not able to stay long enough to recoup my costs for this trip, especially since we were doing the tourist thing that Jeremy wanted to do. It was a little bit more expensive, and I knew it was going to be expensive up front, but the whole goal was to then recoup those costs on the back end from the lack of expense moving forward, and that's not going to happen. So that's annoying. It'll be fine, but it's just one of those things. It's like, all right. So on one hand, I'm looking forward to kissing Rachel's face earlier than I thought. You know, that's good. But then on the other hand, I'm like, you know, I did tell my buddy though. I was like, look, we're both veterans. We've both been in other countries. This is not our first rodeo. I was like, we both knew that stuff could go sideways. I was like, hey, we weren't drinking. We weren't doing something stupid. Just stuff happens sometimes, you know, because he was feeling really bad about it. And he was like, I don't want this to ruin our friendship. And I was like, dude, I don't know where your bar for friendship is, or where people's bar for friendship is. I was like, but if I allowed something like this to ruin the friendship, then who would I be? So, realistically, I'd like to come back this year, but that's probably not going to happen realistically. It'll probably have to be next year. But I will be taking Rachel with me at that point. There are some things that I've gotten an increased appreciation or renewed appreciation for, I guess, because it's been a while since I've been in a developing country. And, you know, one of those things is just being able to go over to my kitchen sink and on my granite countertop, you know, I have a 6-way reverse osmosis filter that also alkalizes the water, and just being able to turn that on and pour a glass of water, right? Like that alone, huge. That doesn't happen here, you know. The supply chains and everything are what they are. So, you know, there were about 4 days where I was sick, where I was ended up spending about the equivalent of $15 US just to stay hydrated, right? Just to stay alive. Okay, so these are things that we take for granted, you know. And now it's fine because they got a bunch of stuff in, and I found a huge, you know, 7-10 liter things of water, and now I'm golden for the rest of the time I'm here. But yeah, there's a lot we take for granted, and it's hard because I'm like, all right, well, I wish I could take the spirit of the people from here and ingest that into the United States, right? But it's like a chicken and the egg scenario. There's a lot these people have been through historically, and a lot that they go through every day, and that may be the reason why they're so happy and so giving and so, you know, but they also know how to hold a mirror right up to your face. You know, you cannot be, I would love to do a case study where I took like 100 different, if you could find them, it'd be hard to find 100 true narcissists. But if I could find 100 true narcissists, I just dropped them off here with the, I would say like 5 times the average living wage here in the Philippines, and just study them and see how they do over the course of like 5 years, do a longitudinal study. I have a feeling what would happen is initially they do well, right? Because, you know, they're outgoing, they're all charismatic and all that stuff. And that's, you know, that's attractive. But one thing I've learned about Filipino people is that they're extremely observant, very, very observant. And they're very hospitable. But that hospitality is with that unspoken undertone of life is hard here, so if I do you a solid, maybe in the future, you know, if I'm down on my luck, you can do me a solid, right? Totally, that's how it should be. That's more how it was in Western New York growing up. You know, in the snow and the cold and all that stuff. Like, if you don't have friends, you could literally die. Like, if your car goes off in the ditch out in the sticks somewhere, and you didn't have a cell phone, because, you know, I grew up without cell phones and all that stuff, you could die, right? If you didn't have friends that would come out and actively look for you. So these are all things that are lost on us today. But so I think what would happen is over time, once their true personality kind of came out, right? I think they would be slowly ostracized. I think that's what would happen. Because the Filipino people here are not very like overt with ostracization and all that stuff, but you can see it. And I did meet a fellow American, I would say. I think he lives here, but over the course of about an hour at one of the bars, I realized who I was dealing with, right? And I was dealing with one of these people. Okay, now I dug into his backstory a little bit. I get why he's one of these people, at least I think I do, but he's one of these people. And I watched it happen where he would get madder and madder because he would start attacking me about my character flaws or whatever. And whenever I admit, yeah, you're right, that is something I work on, right? I'm working on it. I'm not there yet. I'm not perfect. It would make him even angrier, right? Even angrier. So, you know, he is one of these people, and it was interesting to watch the local Filipino people around him see, like, through that lens, see through that mirror, and realize what was going on. And it happened real time. And at one point, he literally escalated and threatened me. And of course, me being me, I just smiled and sat back because I know the culture that I'm in, or at least a little bit of it. And I realized that any form of aggression in this culture is considered shameful. You're bringing shame on yourself. I forget the name of the word. So I sat back, smiled, relaxed, and just let him know that I was ready for whatever he wanted to bring, right? Because I am. And especially at that point, you know, realizing who he was and giving my past history with one of these people, I was like, I will destroy you. Obviously, I didn't say that, but I was thinking it. So bring it. Because this guy's bigger than me, but I don't care. it doesn't really mean much, especially if he's drunk, and I wasn't. So, anyways, yeah, he escalated and escalated and escalated, and I realized, you know, right away, this guy's not going to do anything, right? And if he does, it's going to feel so good. But so anyways, but yeah, the local people, they took care of him, they handled it, and he basically brought more and more shame on himself, and I kept my respect. And that's quite a psychological concept here that I wish we had in America. We don't seem to have that much, but it was very interesting to watch it play out. I do love observing people here, especially because I love the fact that they're so observant. It's like we're observing each other. Excuse me. Still snot and phlegm and nastiness, but much better than it was. So, yeah, just, I don't know. It's been a really interesting experience. I'm sad that I'm leaving so soon. I will say that when I do this again, I'm definitely going to get with a local Filipino woman, probably on an app or something. I'll link up with Rachel on that one. Figure out where, kind of where I want to stay. Definitely be on an island without any, well, obviously be on an island. It is the Philippines after all. But outside the tourist zones, not too remote. You know, obviously if she's on a nap, she probably has internet, stuff like that. But find a place to just set up camp for, you know, 2 or 3 months and then just chill. Now, whether or not Rachel will want to do 3 months, it takes 3 months. Excuse me, Jesus. They say it takes 3 months to change your life, right? So that's why, a minimum. And that's why I wanted to do 3 months. We'll see how that goes, because I did tell Rachel, I was like, look, I don't mind swinging your ticket if we're here for 6 months. I can buy your ticket, pay for everything over here, and financially it works out. For 3 months, it doesn't. So, you know, if she pays her ticket, then for 3 months it will work out, and I'll basically break even, right? If I'm paying for all her stuff. So, like, I do the math on this stuff, guys. I'm not naive. Where, unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, just throw a pin in the dark and a stab in the dark. And to me, that's no way to live your life. I mean, if it doesn't work out on paper, it ain't going to work in real life. So, I will say that there are certain things here that I don't care how much money you have here, you're not going to be able to get. You know, it's not going to happen. So, you know, certain things like water pressure, right? Like, you're basically, from what I'm seeing, probably a better way to go is, as another civil engineer I found on YouTube went, is find an island, find a place where you can carve out, hire people to help you, but be the mind behind it, right? You're going to have some money up front, so probably $60,000 to $100,000, and then build it to the point where it's pretty much self-sustainable and off the grid, if it has to be for the most part, and is typhoon proof. So, you know, something like an insulated concrete form house, something like that. Because you can do, I mean, concrete is abundant here. All the materials are abundant here, so that's good. Labor is relatively inexpensive compared to the States. And that's the other thing too. Yes, when you get here, things are cheaper, right? But you have to consider, are they expensive to the locals? Because if they're expensive to the locals, they're going to be expensive to you. And that's something that people don't grasp. And it's not a good thing, you know. It's how people's economies get screwed up. It's how locals get squeezed out of the locations they grew up in, that their families and past generations grew up in, right? And tradition is a big thing. So, another thing, this is actually a really quiet area, honestly. There's not that much traffic, as you can see. Another thing to consider is, I I had a thought and then I lost it. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, you know, it'd be nice if the U.S. had a little bit more of a collectivistic culture a little bit. But really what it boils down to is that concept of I'm an individual in a collective human species, right? So I'm an individual who is trying to do not only what's best for me, but also what's best for humanity. And maybe the humanity thing trumps a little bit above you know. I think that'd probably be a good balance to get to in the U.S., whether we get there or not. I'm not very hopeful, but let's just say that it stinks that it seems like people have to go through a lot of hardship before they realize what matters. I wish there was a way to inject that without going through hardship, but I don't think there is. You know, and let's just say that most people in the U.S. have no idea what hardship looks like. Zero clue. Zero clue. And I would say that if you're in the U.S. and you want to come over here, skip the tourist areas, right? It's not real, right? It is to a point, but not really. Get outside the tourist areas, you know. Put it this way, if the roads around you are blacktopped, get out, all right? Go somewhere where the 2-lane road is 1 lane, you know. Go somewhere up in the mountains or the hills or whatever else. Get out on some of the islands, see what life is really like, and you know, go from there. So where I am right now, it's kind of a pretty good balance, it seems like, between the city and the outskirts of everything. But again, you know, I've only been on 3 islands in a month, right? Which is about the most you're going to hope to be able to do. Yeah, take your time and I guess enjoy the journey. They always do say when you come to the Philippines, if you're looking at living here, at least part-time, walk, don't run. Okay, so I see what they're talking about, because there's a lot to account for. It's a lot. So anyways, have a great day, guys. Oh, and one of the reasons I say skip the tourist zones is because you're going to be rightly labeled as a tourist, right? And everything that comes with the rest of the people that are in that area. So, and it's correct, but you're going to have to break that stereotype. You know, where if you're already off the beaten path and everything, you know, you're already breaking the mold. So that's another reason I say skip the tourist areas. It's just less headache on your part, less money out of your pocket, and less stereotyping that's going to happen to you. So that's my 2 cents. And that's another thing around here. Word gets around pretty fast from what I've seen. So you definitely don't want to ruin, you know, your reputation is everything. That's all you have. Especially as a man, that is all you ever have, is your reputation. And if you ruin it here, then you're done, you know. Now, I don't know how that would fare for a Western woman here. I shouldn't say Western woman. Foreign woman in general here. And by foreign, I mean not from the Philippines. I'm not sure how that would work. If it'd be the same, it'd probably be a little bit, there'd probably be more nuances there. But probably the same deal. Like the second, you know, they find out you're an asshole, you're done, you know. Like I said, you're just going to be quietly ostracized. And that's the way it should be. Shun. It's really nice. Just shun. It's a really effective way to get people to change. Just shun them, you know. Especially when they have nowhere else to go, you know. So yeah, it's interesting. I am gonna miss it here, that's for sure. jumping around a little bit. The other reason that I mentioned building something that's like insulated concrete form house or something is because it'll last. One thing that I've noticed about the Filipinos here is it seems like if you were to build something that'll outlast your death, they will continue to use it and take care of it. So, like, if you were to build infrastructure that lasts here, you're probably going to help their economy versus hurting it. If you're building something that's just tearing down and all that stuff all the time, it's not going to help the economy. It's not going to help them, right? Where if you were, as a foreigner, if you know, obviously you cannot legally own land here, and I think anyone who does under an LLC that's a foreigner, you better be real careful, because if you're doing it under a dummy LLC, in other words having a local as your front head, it's extremely illegal here. And if anyone blows you in, you are screwed. You are definitely, I mean, you're gonna forfeit everything, including the building, and even up to being banned from the country. So, and that's another thing we did see. Unfortunately, there was a foreigner who looked like they had rented a car and they had run over a motorbike, or run up on top of a motorbike. And from what we could see, the driver was gone, and there was a military personnel with an AR-15, M16, A2, something like that, standing there. And I thought it was interesting. And our taxi cab driver, he was like, oh yeah, they probably hauled him away. He's probably in jail. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because I noticed, like, especially in Manila and Cebu, they're cities, so everything is so busy and no one's hitting each other, right? Because everyone is looking out for each other. It seems like there's a whole lot more empathy here among the people. So, like, just everyone is aware of each other, and so traffic just kind of flows like water. You know, lanes are kind of optional, directionality is kind of optional, but everyone's looking out for each other, so no one really gets hit. You just, the key is not to stop. You just keep moving, because once you stop, I think that's the issue. But yeah, you just make sure that other people are aware of you and you're aware of them, and you just keep moving, and it's fine. You know, we're over in the States, man. Dude, if you put your arm up and walked out in traffic in the States, then you just get run over because people are just not aware of you. Or even worse, they're like, you're walking. I'm in a car, you know, or on a motorbike. Like, there's just a lack of empathy in the U.S. When it comes to that kind of stuff. And not only that, but a total lack of awareness outside of the me, outside of the self. You know, I'm the most important thing here. So instead of we're all part of a collective, right? I'm the most important thing here. And speaking of collective, you always hear that Southeast Asian cultures are a lot more collectivist. I would say it's way more complicated than that, because after being here, yes, there is a collective thought process, but at the same time, everyone's very individualistic. So like even jeepney owners and all that stuff, you'll see their jeepneys painted these radical colors, and like people's houses will be painted these crazy colors, or I should say domiciles will be painted these crazy colors. People figure out how to individualize themselves in really creative, unique ways. And so while there is that collectivistic thing here, it feels like there's a lot more of the individualism stuff here that you just don't really think about or see when you're, you know, online or looking anywhere else. So it's like anything else. You just got to pay attention, like immerse yourself in the culture and pay attention. So I know I'm not paying a lot of attention while I'm recording a video, and it's not unalarming, but it's fine. It's fine. So, oh my God.